What's up, guys? Mason the Rock Henderson here, and Happy New Year from Ohio slash the East Coast. Obviously, if you're not living on the same part of the U.S. that I am, you probably have either already celebrated or are about to anyway. But it's the new year, 2017, which means the transfer window is open, and it's time to talk about it because there are a few things that I think we need to start looking at as far as the transfer window and how it's going to go. So first of all, I want to talk about some of the rumors surrounding the club. Obviously, one of the big ones recently that I think has kind of died out now was the whole James Rodriguez. Is he going to come? Is he not? I also know Vidal has been one of the ones the club's been looking at, and of course, always looking at different defenders. I know Michael Keane from Burnley is one that it was talking about, maybe replacement for John Terry. So I thought I'd pitch in my 2 cents, kind of look at what's the club need, what about selling wise, all of that. Obviously January is not really a whole lot gets done in January. Most of the business gets done in the summer. January is kind of a time where some teams strengthen a little bit and maybe loan out some of the young players that you didn't loan out in the summer, or maybe sell a player that hasn't been involved and is just kind of costing you money. So let's talk about the transfer window. First of all, obviously the big thing to talk about is Oscar's big money move to China. It's, in my opinion, it's a good thing. I think Oscar's been a player who had potential in the past, and it felt like, oh, maybe he's going to do something incredible. But as we started seeing more and more of him, you could just see that those moments were few and far between. There wasn't enough of it. There wasn't enough time that he actually was doing something effective. It felt like there were always these little tiny moments, and then not overall enough from him. So yeah, I can kind of see why. I mean, especially because we're making so much money for him. It kind of feels like the whole David Luiz transfer. We got an offer of 50 million for him. It's like, yeah, sure. I I don't know why you're buying him for that much, but absolutely. So yeah, the fact that they're willing to spend that much money for Oscar, really good for us. One of our French players is selling for 60 million pounds. That's good. So, who else needs to be sold? In my opinion, there are a few that maybe need to be offloaded, either on loan or transferred out. Obviously, one of the ones, and if you guys have watched my reviews in the past, you know what I'm going to say. I think Mikel needs to be sold. I understand he's a great servant to the club. I understand that a lot of people like him, and that, oh, he was part of the team that won the Champions League and all blah 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 blah. I'm sorry, he doesn't cut it. And the fact that we've got Conte and Fabregas and Matic already just taking up the midfield, and on top of that you got Chalaba, who's doing really well. There's no way he's making it into the team. So right now he's just costing us money. I don't even think he's playing on the reserves either. So I think we probably need to try to see if we can offload him somewhere, maybe get some money from him for him, because frankly, I'd rather get money for him than just have him leave and then we get nothing for all the time that he spent at Chelsea. All the money we paid him, we get nothing for him. But yeah, so player I think needs to be sold, and then I think another one probably needs to be sold is Ivanovic. I know obviously he played today and he's been playing as kind of a backup to Moses, but I really don't think he has much use anymore. I don't think he can play that wing back position very well. Obviously, we don't have a whole lot of wingbacks. I'm going to talk about this later, but I think at the moment we can get better options than Ivanovic. I think we might be able to sell him for a good bit of money because he's still a pretty decent player. So I think we could get some good money for him, but I do think that we can get better options than Ivanovic. So as far as loan goes, I think one absolutely needs to be loaned is Loftus-Cheek, mainly because he's not nearly the player that I think we were all hoping he was going to be. It seemed like, oh, maybe he's going to be that good youth player coming through the youth academy, but as it's turned out, he's really not an effective player. So really needs to get a loan out somewhere, possibly the championship, just to see if he can do anything down there. If not, that would kind of be the sign that, okay, he's definitely not the player we were hoping for. But he definitely does need to be loaned out because right now he's just sitting on the bench. He's not getting any better, and he needs some time. He needs to get some game time in so that way he's actually progressing and becoming a better player. Another loan that I think probably needs to happen is Ola Aina, just because I think he has the talent. I think we've seen that he has the talent, but he's not going to make it in the first team anytime soon. So I think get him out on loan, preferably to one of the lower sides in the league. I mean, Ake is one of the ones I think is benefiting the most from playing on these lower sides in the Premier League because they don't really have a whole lot of great defenders down there. So you send them to these lower clubs, and most of the time they're going to get some playing time because they're that good. So I would really like to see him get a loan to one of the lower Premier League clubs, but that maybe that's just me. I don't think he's going to have a whole lot of game time for us. So, so those are all the ones I think need to be sold, loaned out, something like that. The rest of them, I say, keep what you've got. I mean, even the ones I'm disappointed with, like Cahill and occasionally Pedro, I think they still have a part to play. Even though they have mistakes, even though they have issues from time to time, they're still playing fairly well overall. They're still at least average, and I think that's what we need in our team. So, as far as transfers in, though, you really look at the team that we have now. You look at the roles I think that we need filled. Defensively, you could say, yeah, we need more defenders, all that stuff. But I mean, really think about it. You've got David Luiz, Espilicueta, and Cahill playing right now. Terry is almost back from injury. Zuma is pretty much back from injury. He's been on the bench, but he hasn't been able to make it in yet. So I don't really know if we need another defender right now because I feel like you bring in another one right now, and they're going to find it difficult to make it into the team. Either that, or you're going to have to bench one of the players that's playing all the time. So I think if you're going to get a defender, wait until the summer when we can pick up a really good defender that can take the place of somebody that's playing already, like a Cahill or like David Luiz. But for now, I say don't need any defenders. Obviously, goalkeeper-wise, Courtois is doing great, so just try to keep a hold of him. If you can't, though, then maybe start looking at what keepers you can bring in. Uh, the role that I really think needs filled, though, is the wing-back roles. Because you think about what we've got. We've got Alonso, we've got Moses. That's pretty much it. Ivanovic, I don't think, can do it from the start. I think he does fine coming off the bench because people are tired, so he's not having to do as much running up and down the field. But I don't think he can go not even 60 minutes of just going up and down the field. I don't think he has the ability to do that anymore. So look at possibly bringing in a wingback. I think one in particular that might actually work is we're getting Kennedy back from loan from Watford because they weren't playing him at all. So I think that might be one that you want to look at and say, okay, well, he played fullback for Mourinho last year, and he's also a good winger, so maybe he is a good, maybe a backup, maybe if somebody gets suspended or injured, maybe he's one that you can look at and say, okay, you step in. So, yeah, there are a couple of youth players we can look at there, but at the same time, I want to bring in somebody world-class in those positions. Obviously, Moses is somebody who has just really taken that role, and it's going to take a lot to upseat him. But Alonso has had some issues in the past few games. I think if we bring somebody in and they start doing more than Alonso's doing, I think it'll start to be even better than it's already been. We've already had a great run, obviously, but you bring somebody else in, possibly does better than Alonso, all of a sudden we can beat teams like Tottenham away from home. We can beat teams like Arsenal and Liverpool away from home. Right now, it feels like we do have a weakness, and it's that left side, with Alonso and Cahill on the same side. So I think we need to start looking at strengthening that. As far as the midfield goes, I really don't think we need to add anything to the midfield. I think Conte, Matic, and Fabregas have a good rotation going on. If one of them gets hurt or suspended, possibility of Chalobah stepping in and taking the place of that rotation. So I don't think we really need to add anything there. Going up top, maybe add somebody. There's talk of Sanchez possibly wanting to leave Arsenal. Obviously, there's talks about James Rodriguez and all that. I do think we could benefit from bringing in somebody else up top that can work alongside Hazard and Costa because Pedro has his moments and Willian is really good on the breakaway, but both of them do have gaps in their game that I think you could bring in another player. Sanchez is one that obviously everybody's been talking about. It's like you've been dreaming about it because how good would Hazard, Costa, and Sanchez up top be? Obviously, the chances of that happening, the chances of Arsenal giving us Sanchez, not likely. Even the possibility of them letting go of Sanchez is not likely. So, yeah, it's kind of a dream right now. It's kind of like, oh, what if? But you bring in somebody like Sanchez who can play around with the ball really well and who can also hold up possession really well. And I think that could really work because that's honestly the two issues that I think Pedro and Willian have. With Pedro, he has the skill, he has the technique with his footwork, but he's not strong enough to hold up possession. So if somebody puts a challenge on him, he's not able to keep possession. With Willian, he's strong, he's fast, but he's not clever enough to play that quick little 1-2. He can be from time to time, but overall, he's not as good as say Hazard or Costa or Fabregas. So I think you bring in somebody who can not only hold up possession but can also play the quick 1-2. And I think we could be really deadly up top. We already are really deadly up top, but just imagine for a second that we just have somebody else up there who can play alongside Hazard and Costa and have the exact same abilities that Hazard and Costa can bring. It could be a really fearsome front three. So overall, based on who is available right now, obviously there's a lot of talk about bringing in another center mid. Two of the ones I've heard a lot about, Vidal and Veratti. I don't think that would be a good option for us, but at the same time, like I said, wingbacks are kind of where we need more depth. I can't really think of anybody that we can bring in. Kennedy, like I said, may be one that we look at since he's coming back from loan. I think Charlie Musonda is also coming back, and he's a pretty good player as well. But I think he's injured right now, so he may not be able to be in the team currently. So, I don't know. It's really difficult to say who exactly we need to get right now. I can say, of all the players that we've been linked to, I think Sanchez, Veratti, I think are two that I really would like to get if possible. Sanchez, it just doesn't seem possible, but I mean that front three just sounds like a fearsome combo and sounds unstoppable. Veratti, I think he could add a little bit more to the midfield. I do like him as a player. I think he could add maybe a bit more than maybe Madic would give you, but also be a bit more defensive than Fabregas. So he might be a better option than those two. And if they are looking to offload Fabregas, which I don't know why you would want to, because look at what he does on the ball. But at the same time, I can understand where Fabregas doesn't bring a whole lot defensively. So you might want to bring in a bit more defensive player that can also play with it. So yeah, overall, who to bring in, who not to bring in, I think, in my opinion, it's easier to see who do we need to get rid of. Mikel we need to get rid of. Obviously, Loftus-Cheek, Aina, two of the young players that aren't getting a lot of time. I say get them out on loan. Get them playing at either a high championship side or a lower Premier League side. Just get them playing so we can see, do they have the quality to make it on Chelsea. And as far as bringing players in, start looking at the youth. Then from there, we've got some money to spend. Maybe bring in some younger players that can fill the gaps later on. I mean, Zuma's one absolutely that we brought in when he was young. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, he's a young player. But as he got some game time, we started realizing, okay, he's a good young player. So possibly look at getting some young players in that maybe aren't what we need right now. But honestly, right now we're doing fine. We have a good starting 11. We got some players to back them up. So maybe not looking for players that will play right now, but will play a few years down the line and will be incredible a few years down the line. So maybe a few of those players, maybe look at a world-class player if possible, because we do want to keep this run going, and at some point players are going to start getting tired. But overall, I mean, it's looking like it's going to be a good year. It feels like we're set up to really push and challenge and run away with the title this year, because our only competition right now is Liverpool. You look at Man City, they're struggling. Arsenal obviously haven't played yet. They play later today. But they have had their issues. They've had a couple draws. But Liverpool, they look like the side that they're going to beat the lower side. So they are going to keep getting points, and they are going to pick up a few points against the big boys. So they are doing well this season. And I think if anybody's going to challenge, it's going to be Liverpool. So as long as we can continue to get wins, if Liverpool happen to drop a few more points like they have against a couple teams like Bournemouth and Burnley. I feel like this is our year to really just take the title and run away with it and not give anybody a chance. Uh, but it does come down to this transfer window. What are we going to do? Who are we going to pick up? Are we going to pick up anybody? Are we going to plan for the future? All that stuff. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I'm excited to see what Conte's going to do, what his plans are as well, because this is kind of the first time that we've seen him just get to really implement what he wants to do. He had a bit of time in summer transfer window, but not a whole lot. He did pick up a couple good players, but I think this January we're going to see a bit more of the type of players he wants to bring in that will really turn us into a title-winning side year after year. So, looking forward to it. Obviously, I'm going to do a video at the end of January to talk about all the transfers that were made and stuff like that. But for now, let me know what you guys think as far as the transfer window. Who do you think we should pick up? Who do you think we should sell? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews. I'll see you at the next one. Peace out.